Oh, y'all. So the last section for test 2 is what we call 5.4, complex rational expressions. And really, the only expression we're going to be dealing with is what we call the difference quotient. But y'all will say this, if you're familiar with the slope formula, when you find a straight line slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, this is basically derived from that, but it lets me find the slope of curved lines and other functions other than just a straight line, okay? So the difference quotient is f of your x plus h minus your f of x all over h. So the h is always in the formula on the bottom. They're going to give us f of x when they give us the problem. They're going to give us the function. So the only thing we got to find for this formula is the f of x plus h part. Once we find f of x plus h, we can plug that in. We'll plug in the f of x, and then we'll divide that by h on the bottom, okay? So just remember, the h is always in the formula. But this is like your y2 minus y1 stuff on top. And then h on the bottom would be the distance between your 2 points you're looking at. Um, and like I said, you'll find this formula more in business type classes, okay? Or if you do engineering, you might see it in engineering because y'all be finding the slope a lot too. So here's the steps to, and we call these kind of problems, we're going to construct and then simplify this difference quotient. So these will be the steps to simplifying the difference quotient. All right, y'all. So the first thing we got to do, like I said, is find f of x plus h. And then we're going to plug into the formula. Um, and y'all, it's like I said, they're going to give us f of x, and the h is always on the bottom in the formula. So really, the only thing we got to find at first is that f of x plus h. We're going to plug everything into the formula. Now, these are going to be polynomials. So when I plug them into the formula, I'm going to keep them in parentheses. So my next step would be to combine like terms on top after dropping the parentheses. And distributing the subtraction. Okay, so you just got to remember, if you got parentheses that are being subtracted, anything that follows this subtraction, we got to distribute the subtraction to everything that's inside those parentheses. So that's what I'm talking about right here. So here's the thing. After we combine like terms on top, all the terms that do not contain an H will cancel out. Okay, so if it's on top and it don't have an H in it, it's going to cancel out when we drop these parentheses and do all that fun stuff. Okay, so now everything on top will have an H. We got an H on the bottom. So my next step is to divide all of the terms on top by the H on the bottom. Okay, so everything on top will be divided by the 1H you got on bottom, because you sort of got to distribute division just like you do multiplication, okay? So I'm going to divide everything on top by that H on the bottom, and y'all write that result. Okay? So after I do all this dividing, I won't have that H on the bottom no more because we're dividing it out. So all that'll be left is a straight line equation, okay? So we'll start out sort of mellow and then sort of kick it in as we go. So y'all, for the first problem, they say for the function f of x equals 6x minus 4. They want me to construct and simplify the difference quotient. Now, they'll give you the formula every time, okay? So they usually write that here. I'm not going to write it because I got it right there, but they'll give you this formula on every problem. Now, I will say this. If you remember this, this is the form of an equation of a line, a straight line. And in the long run, this is like mx plus b form. So 6 is going to be, and technically 6 is the slope of this straight line. So when we're done, since this difference quotient is finding the slope, you'll notice I'll get that same answer. The only difference is you can't use y equals mx plus b form if you got x squareds or x cubes or higher exponents, okay? So that's why we use this difference quotient, because it'll work all the time. So we said the first thing we do, find f of x plus h. So f of x plus h means I'm going to take f of x, and where f of x has the x, I'm putting x plus h. So this will be 6 times, so I got 6 times x. Well, we're putting in an x plus h for the x. And then we got minus 4. And y'all, that's what they mean by finding f of x plus h. You're putting that x plus h in for the variable here. Now we just got to simplify this real quick. So to simplify this one, we're going to get rid of the parentheses by distributing our 6. So 6 times x is 6x plus 6 times h is 6h. And then at the end is my minus 4. Now, I didn't have to distribute the 6 to the 4 because it wasn't inside those parentheses, okay? But this here is f of x plus h. So now I got f of x plus h. I got f of x. We'll put that into our formula and then divide by h. So I'm going to put my f of x plus h minus my f of x, and then we'll divide that by the h. All right, so f of x plus h was this, 6x plus 6h minus 4. f of x was what they gave me, 6x minus 4. All righty. So now we just got to simplify this. So we said once we plug everything in, we're going to combine like terms on top after dropping the parentheses. So y'all, let me drop the parentheses and write all that out. Now remember, we got to distribute this subtraction into the second parentheses. So when you drop the first parentheses, nothing in front of them. So just bring all this out. 6-8x plus 6h minus 4. Now, distribute that negative times that positive. You get a negative 6x. Distribute that negative times that negative. You get a positive 4. All this is over h. All right, so now we're going to combine the like terms on top. But remember, we said all terms that do not contain an h will cancel out. Well, y'all see this 6x? It don't have an h, but that 6x cancels with this negative 6x. Now this one's got an h, so there's no more h's to cancel it, but this negative 4 don't have an h, and that negative 4 cancels with that positive 4. So the only thing left on top is a 6h over the h on the bottom. And y'all, this will simplify because now I divide all the terms on top by the h on the bottom. So when I divide this top by the bottom, them h's are going to cancel out, and my final answer is 6. But y'all, we knew that because this was a straight line, and the slope of a straight line is the number in front of the x. So notice, we got the same thing, okay? So my second one is going to be a straight line again. And then they'll throw the x squared at us, okay? But y'all, like I said, the trick on this is getting your f of x plus h. Plugging that into the formula and then doing your canceling, okay? So y'all, let's do another one with a straight line. All right, y'all, so given f of x equals 3x plus 5, construct and simplify. My difference quotient, and I'll write it again since we're on another page. F of x plus h minus f of x all over h. All righty. So there's my function. That's f of x. We got h on the bottom. So y'all, once again, we got to find f of x plus h. So that's going to be the first thing I do. F of x plus h. And y'all remember, it's just f of x, but I put the x plus h in for that x, okay? So I'll have 3 times x plus h, and then plus my 5. And then once again, we'll get rid of these parentheses by doing our distributing. Okay? So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times h is a positive 3h. And then I got my plus 5. All right, y'all. So we now have the f of x plus h. So now we get to plug it into the formula. So f of x plus h minus f of x all over my h. And always start out with parentheses because you got to in order to distribute that minus, okay? So here's f of x plus h, 3x plus 3h plus 5. And then f of x, which we're putting in here, was 3x plus 5. All right, so I'm plugged into the formula. I'm now going to distribute the subtraction and drop all my parentheses. So like I said, the first one stays the same, 3x plus 3h plus 5. Then we'll distribute the negative times the 3 is negative 3x. The negative times the positive 5 makes that a negative 5. And y'all, that's all over h. So notice, this don't have an h. It's going to cancel with the negative 3x. The 3h will stay because there's not another h. But then the 5 and the negative 5 cancel. So that I now have a 3h over h. Okay. Now, if you end up with something not canceling and it does not have an h, then go back and check your math because, like I said, everything that don't have an h has to cancel at this point. Oh, and y'all look at this. Just like a while ago, this h cancels with that one h, giving me a final answer of 3. So straight lines aren't too bad. It's always the number in front of the x when you got a straight line. But y'all, they're not going to give us straight lines in this class every time. That was just to get you good at using this formula. So watch what they're giving us now. Given f of x equals x squared plus 7, construct and simplify the difference quotient. And that's my f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. But y'all notice this time it's an x squared, so the slope ain't going to be a single number on this thing here, okay? But we do have the f of x part. So once again, we got to find f of x plus h. So y'all, that's going to be x plus h squared, because we're putting x plus h in for the x. And then at the end is a plus 7. So y'all, this changes the game now. Because our first step is to work this exponent. So our first step is to come on the side over here and figure out what x plus h squared equals. Because this is not going to equal x squared plus h squared. You can't distribute exponents when stuff's being added or subtracted. When you got things being added or subtracted behind following an exponent like this, that means you got to write it that many times. X plus h, x plus h, and then FOIL this, okay? So to FOIL it, we'll do x times x and get an x squared. X times h is a hx. I'm just putting mine in alphabetical order. Now multiply this h times x, you get hx. And then at the end, h times h is h squared. All right, you're going to come add like terms. So you get an x squared 1 and 1 gives me 2hx, and then plus h squared. So y'all write this down and save it, because you're going to get x plus h squared just like me, and that's what we're going to replace it with. So distributing my exponent and foiling, this now becomes x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. So that's this part, but I still got a plus 7. All right, cannot shorten this any, because these are not like terms. None of these match, so we cannot add over here, okay? So that means we're now going to plug everything into the formula. F of x plus h minus f of x all over h. And y'all are going to work very similar to mine. The only difference, they're going to change the numbers up on y'all's, okay? All right, so what is my f of x plus h? That's all of this that we just found. X squared plus 2hx plus h squared plus 7. F of x is what they gave me, x squared plus 7. All right, y'all, so if y'all remember, next, I'm going to drop my parentheses and distribute my subtraction. So bring down the first, x squared plus 2hx plus h squared plus 7. All right, here's a negative times a positive, makes that a negative x squared. Negative times a positive makes that a negative 7 all over my h. Now, if you'll notice something here, we've known that if it don't have a h, it's getting canceled. But are you noticing this? Everything in the second parentheses is always canceling out on these, okay? The 3x and the 5, those canceled. Here, the x squared and 7, they're going to cancel. Because, y'all, this x squared cancels with that negative x squared. Right, that is staying because it's got an h. That one's staying because it's got an h. But then I got a 7 canceling with a negative 7. So once again, everything in the second parentheses cancels out. All right, y'all, so let's see what's left. Now on top, I got a 2hx plus my h squared all over h. So y'all, are you noticing when I find this here f of x plus h stuff, if I get rid of the stuff that don't have h's, I've got this part, okay? Because all we're doing the rest of this is canceling the stuff that don't have the h's. So once you figure out where the h's go, you can bring that down here, divide by your h. And y'all, let me do one more step for y'all, because you got to realize both of these on top have to divide by the h. So you got a 2hx divided by h, plus you got a h squared divided by that h. Both of these are going to get divided by h. So that on the first one here, the h's cancel, and you're left with 2x. Now on this one, you got to remember, h squared is really h times h over h. So if you write it as a h times a h, you'll see that one of those h's will cancel, leaving me with one h. So this will be a 2x plus h. Or y'all, another trick, since they don't have exponents, you would treat the bottom h like it's got an exponent of 1, and 2 minus 1 left you 1h. So you can subtract exponents or Remember that a h squared is a h times a h and cancel it that way. But y'all, here is my final answer. So when you got straight lines, you got a single number on those kind of graphs, okay? But this is the x squared. So remember, x squared graphs are parabolas. And to know the slope of a point on this, to know the slope between this points here, you got to know the x value and then how far is that h. Okay, so a little bit trickier when you got the x squareds. But y'all, I'm not going to ask you to find any slopes. I'm just going to ask you to plug in and simplify this formula, okay? Oh, y'all, so there's one more of these, and it's another sort of tricky one. And I think there's only 4 in this section that you got to do for the homework. And like I said, they're going to follow the same kind of problems as mine are, okay? So here's our number 4. All right, so they're giving us on this one, given f of x equals, whoo, this is going to be a little trickier, negative 5x squared plus 9x plus 2. So y'all, I got 2 x's on this one. So then we'll construct and simplify. F of x plus h minus f of x all over your h, okay? Y'all look at this. F of x has got 2 x's in it. So when we first come over here and find f of x plus h, wherever there's an x here, I'm putting this now, okay? So I've got my negative 5 times x squared, which will be x plus h squared. And then it's plus 9 times x. But once again, I got to put in my x plus h. And then at the end is a plus 2. So f of x plus h looks like f of x because I got negative 5 times my x, 9 times my x, and then plus my 2. All righty. My first step is to work the exponent stuff. So you got to work the exponent before you multiply. So bring down that negative 5. Now, if you remember on problem number 3, I know what x plus h squared equals because we foiled this on problem 3. So it's going to be the same thing as I did a while ago. So x plus h squared was equal to x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. All right, I'm bringing everything else down. So I'm bringing everything else down because all I did on that step, y'all, was this exponent stuff right here. Okay, following order of operations, did the exponent first. Now I can distribute the negative 5 through the first parentheses. Then I'll distribute the 9 through the second parentheses, and then we'll bring down that 2. So we're doing all of our multiplying now. So this will give us negative 5x squared. And yes, you got to distribute this negative also, okay? Negative 5 times 2 gives me a negative 10hx. And then negative 5 times h squared is a negative 5h squared. So here you distributed the 9. 9 times x is 9x. 9 times h is 9h. And y'all, at the end is my plus 2. So all we did on that step was do our distributing. So now we would try to add like terms, but there's no other x squareds. There's no other hx's. There's no other h squareds. There's no other x's. There's no other h terms. And there's no other 2's. So nothing simplifies here. So no like terms. So all of that, y'all, is going to be f of x plus h minus my f of x will plug in. And then all of that will be over h. But y'all look at this. This was sort of long, negative 5x squared. But y'all remember this. We know that this will cancel. That's going to stay. That's going to stay. That's going to cancel. That's going to stay. And that's going to cancel. Because the only ones that'll stay after this next step are going to be the h's. Okay? So let's get everything in and watch that happen. All right, trying to write all that in here. 9x, 9h plus 2 minus f of x was a negative 5x squared plus 9x plus 2. So let me do all my distributing on that negative there and bring all these out. So negative 5x squared minus 10hx minus 5h squared plus 9x plus 9h plus 2. So see, if you do it this way and do every step like this, you get long problems a little bit. That's why I want y'all to realize that at this point, I could have took the negative 10hx, the 5h squared, and a 9h and put that all over h. And all this stuff is just showing you how the stuff is canceling, okay? Because watch this. Negative times a negative makes that a positive 5x squared. Negative times a positive is a negative 9x. Negative times a positive is a negative 2. Y'all, all of that is going to be over that h. So here we go. Negative 5x squared, positive 5x squared. Those cancel. Nothing will cancel the 10hx's. Nothing will cancel the h squareds. But a 9x, this 9x cancels with the negative 9x. All right, there's nothing to cancel a 9h. But the 2 cancels with a negative 2. So y'all look what we got left on this one. A negative 10hx minus 5h squared plus 9h. All those divided by that h on the bottom. Now, you got to realize there's 3 terms up here. All 3 of these divided by the h. So you'll have negative 10hx divided by h minus 5h squared divided by h plus 9h divided by h. So if you got the right amount to see that happening, that's cool. So on the first one, the h's cancel, and I'm left with negative 10x. The second one, remember, h squared is really a h times a h. So one h cancels, leaving me one h. So that's going to be negative 5h. Or y'all, once again, I just subtracted exponents. 2 minus 1 left me 1. And then that'll be plus, we all look at this. Those h's cancel. All that's left is the 9. So this one had 3 terms on it, okay? So we got 3 terms answered here because we had 3 terms that had those H's in them when we was going through that, okay? All right, y'all, so that was 5.4. So it had just 4 questions, like I saying, okay? All right, y'all, so okay, here's the thing, member. So due to issues with the portal over the weekend, I have set test 1 has 2 attempts. Math Lab will keep the highest attempt you get. So if you were doing test 1 and the portal was acting a little wild while you was doing your test, you get another attempt if you want another attempt, okay? Math Lab will keep the highest of the 2 attempts, okay? Now, y'all, I'm going to do something here that I'm killing everybody on this. Oh, and I'm just going to draw this one like this. I am killing people on this test question right here. But the question is this graph a function? Now, y'all ain't watching the review guide if you're putting yes on this, because the one I did in my review is the same one they're putting on everybody's test question for this problem. But this graph is the function they're asking me. No, this is not the graph of a function because remember, if you draw vertical lines, it intersects it more than once. That means this is not a function. Anywhere you draw, other than that one point, but y'all, all these vertical lines, they're intersecting this thing twice everywhere almost. So if that happens, that's not a function, and y'all are going to have that same question with the same exact picture. So y'all, I highly recommend do the review before you do that test, and you'll see the same question on it, okay? Now, another one that's killing people. They want to know if this one's 1-to-1. Oh, I can't remember exactly what it looked like, but I think it's something like this. And then this part sort of went like this, I think. Um, but this graph, they said, is this graph 1-to-1? Well, this one I have to do the horizontal line test. And y'all look at that. If I draw a horizontal line, it intersected it there, and it intersected it there. Or if you drew some down here, it intersects it there and there. But on this one, it asks you, is this 1-to-1? No. It's failing the horizontal line test. So remember, 1-to-1, you do horizontal lines. Functions, you do vertical lines, okay? Now, there is one after this that says, is the function 1-to-1? If yes, find the inverse. On this question, it is yes on 1-to-1, okay? But this one, they don't give you the graph. This one, they say, hey, is this function f of x, blah, blah? Is it 1-to-1? If yes, find the inverse. On this one, where it says find the inverse, it is yes, 1-to-1, 100%. It's going to be yes, 1-to-1. So then you got to find the inverse. Y'all, this one's a two-part question. Some of y'all are saying, yeah, it's 1-to-1, but you're not doing the part B where it said find the inverse. So this one, you actually got to do the inverse stuff where you turn the f of x into a y, and then you switch the x and y around and solve for the new y, okay? So do this one like we did the inverse stuff. But the one where they give you the picture and they're giving you something really similar to what I got here, and they ask you if that's 1-to-1, y'all, you better say no on that one. Okay? Because like I said, it's failing horizontal line test all day long, okay? So those were some of the major issues I was seeing on the test. And I wanted y'all to let y'all know that because those ones, y'all got the same pictures I'm using on those. Okay, so we got to get the same answers on them, okay? All right, y'all. So I'm going to stop my share. All right, y'all got any questions? So if you did test one and you want another shot at it, if you want a higher score, you can redo it. If you're happy with your test one score, then you don't have to do it again, okay? Because test two is now open and due next Sunday. Now, y'all, we will review for test two tomorrow, and that's pretty much all we're doing tomorrow, okay? So I wanted to keep it sort of light today so that y'all could